Good morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. Now, today I thought we'd get in and discuss taxes. And the reason I want to talk about taxes is because we need to get into the 16th Amendment soon, and so I thought it would be imperative to get to the point where we're discussing taxation a little bit, because the 16th Amendment is about income tax. But I'd like to read you something from the farewell Washington, and I'd like to let this sink in a little bit. As a very important source of strength and security, cherish public credit. One method of preserving it is to use it as sparingly as possible, avoiding occasions of expense by cultivating peace, but remembering much greater disbursements to repel it, avoiding likewise the accumulation of debt, not only by shunning occasional expense, by vigorous exertions in time and peace to discharge the debts with unavoidable wars have occasioned, but ungenerously throwing upon posterity the burthen which we ourselves ought to bear. The execution of these maxims belongs to your representatives, but it is necessary that public opinion should facilitate to them the performance of their duty. It is essential that you practically bear in mind that toward the payment of debts, there must be revenue. But to have revenue, there must be taxes. That no tax can be devised which are not more or less inconvenient and unpleasant. And this is really what's important here. In order to have a government, you must have taxation, because you must have revenue. And the only way to achieve revenue is through taxation. When the Constitution was written, they were talking about taxing states by population. And that's why one of the two reasons they want to do the census. The other was for the House of Representatives numbers. But taxation was heavy in that. Now, when you go to the Constitution in the main section, and you get to Section 8, Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. It clearly is the objective of Congress to be allowed to do this. Duties, imposts, and excises to pay debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. So they're clearly telling us that we can raise taxes. And then I would like to move forward into Section 9, where it says the migration of importation of such persons as any state now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importations not exceeding $10 for each person. Now, what we're talking about here is not changing the Constitution to prohibit slavery, but they are allowing you to tax the slaves. So you're getting another situation where taxation is allowed. Later in Section 9, it goes into a bill of attainder, or ex post facto law shall be passed, no capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless to proportion to the census or a numeration herein before directed to be taken. And that's one of the things I was talking about, to allow this enumeration to take place so that the states would have to pay some tax. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. So if a state exports an item, say it's taking tobacco, and they're taking it up to Maryland for some reason to sell, and they can't charge a fee on that. They can't charge taxation because you're moving within from one state to another state. And because we're one big country, or we're soon to be one big country with the Constitution, this is the purpose of not taxing between states. But now I want to get to the 16th Amendment. Now, it's a short amendment. And right now, we have a lot of movement to get rid of the 16th Amendment, which is why, as we go through these amendments, I think it's important to really compensate what we're discussing here. Now, the 16th Amendment was passed primarily to allow property or income tax. I'm sorry. Income tax was to help pay for the Civil War. Property tax was originally to help pay for World War I. Now, in my view, they should have been dismissed long ago once you were through with those events being paid for. But that was the original purpose of an income tax. And they did pay for the war. They stopped the income tax. Later, they brought it back, and it was repealed. And then they brought it back later, a few decades later. And so this is kind of the history of the income tax. Finally, they decided they had to pass an amendment so they could have an income tax. And this is the 16th Amendment. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. So what I read earlier about the census and enumeration, they're saying now with the 16th, we don't have to do that anymore. We can just take income tax from any source that we so see fit as Congress. A lot of people have come to the conclusion that they aren't allowed to tax income, but clearly it's part of the Constitution, not only by amendment, but the power to tax, the power to have duties, and all these kind of taxation are also allowed. So I think it's important when you understand that taxation is constitutional, and so be the income tax, unless we go about to repeal the amendment, and then we're back to discussing just basic taxation and their right to raise revenue. We have to run a country. We don't have to have the vast bureaucracy we have today. But even if you removed a number of departments that are extra constitutional, if you limited the number of people in the Department of Commerce and some of these other departments that are clearly constitutional, you still have to have somewhat of a government. You still have to patrol your borders. You still have to have a president, a cabinet. You still have to have congressmen and senators, and all that has to be paid for. So there's really no way around taxation. You can eliminate income tax. You can eliminate property tax. But you're going to have to institute some other kind of tax in order to make up for the tax that you're eliminating. Now, there's always been this argument about a flat tax, a flat income tax, but that's still an income tax. But you could always have a national sales tax as a possibility. Or just going back to duties and tariffs would be okay, in my mind anyway, but it's still a tax. So if you want any government at all, you have to have taxation. You have to be able to pay for wars. You have to be able to pay diplomats to try to achieve peace. There are lots of things the government has to do. And there's really no way around that. So I thought we'd get into this a little bit today and discuss the taxation that we have and taxation people want to get rid of. And I think it's important to understand government is necessary to some extent. We can go to a very limited government if that's what we want to do. Or we can have an expanding estate as we now have. But that's clearly up to us, our Congress, and the president to decide. But taxation becomes an important issue. And with that, I'm going to let you go, and I'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. But think about it, folks. We have to have some kind of limited taxation at the very least, or we can't run the country. And having a republic and Republican liberty, as our founders referred to it in the Continental Congress, that's truly what we really need. And taxation is part of that, and so is your basic government system. And we'll talk to you later. I'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. You folks have a good day. Bye for now.